In 1997, Running with Scissors released a game called Postal, an isometric third-person shooter based on the slang phrase, going postal. The phrase gained traction in the 1990s after a string of workplace shootings occurred in the US, mostly involving services like the post office, hence the phrase and the name of the game. The game centers around a dude who seems to just be a violent psycho, who takes glee in straight-up massacring innocents and law enforcement. And yeah, that's kinda what it is, if you ignore the existence of the diaries that were part of the original game's manual, or don't take them seriously, while blindly butchering our way through the game. But before I even get into what I'm talking about, I have to make one disclaimer. This video will delve into some dark territory, and I am not attempting to defend any seriously fucked up actions we'll discuss in the video, so sit back and enjoy. If you've heard of Postal, you might have seen a few videos discussing the history of the series, or even dissecting the psyche of the Postal Dude, and discussing the grotesque themes of the game. So after seeing a handful of these videos recently, I decided I would go ahead and just play the game. It's free on Steam, and less than half a gig, so it's worth a try if you just want some dumb fun. Every video I have seen on this game has portrayed the game the same way. A game made by and for edgelords that just gratuitously depicts acts of mass slaughter. But like I alluded to before, this conclusion lacks virtually all contextual evidence, minus the inspiration for its name, like we discussed earlier. Also, just note, there is actually a diary that came with the game's physical manual. The first diary entry seems to indicate that our character has recently moved into a new town, and has had some freaky experiences with its inhabitants, as well as being evicted from his house by law enforcement. Upon starting the level, the game starts us in a neighborhood, and right off the bat, we're surrounded by police with nothing but shotguns, some dude with a rocket launcher.
Why do they need a rocket launcher to evict me?
And obviously, we start shooting back. I say shooting back because the police will straight up open fire on you if you walk up to your house's front gate. They'll even walk through the front gate to shoot you without provocation. Also of note, the policemen here are using the auto shotgun in some cases that you can only get very late in the game, so this is not exactly normal police behavior. IRL police officers typically carry handguns, and a single two-man squad car usually only has a shotgun for extra firepower. If the police really need a lot of extra firepower, a SWAT team will usually be called in. The gameplay loop is pretty much the same thing all the way through. You fight through 15 different areas, collect new weapons, and move on. However, throughout the levels there are still more weird occurrences, as well as the aforementioned diary entries with each level. Overall, the diaries seem to allude to Postal Dude being confused as to what is going on as he makes his way through the game. On top of that, if you have a keen eye and play the game on an easier difficulty, you might notice on top of other things that the police seem to have very little scruples about firing into crowds of people just to get to you, or even killing civilians right in front of you. If you don't believe me, just take a look at this piece of footage I'm going to show on screen. However, all that hails in comparison to the final nail in the coffin, that being the ending. At the end, we for some reason find ourselves in an elementary school. The Postal Dude shoots at a few children there, and nothing happens. Because nothing ever happened. After the screen cuts to black, we find ourselves in an asylum and hear some psychologists in the background talking about how we've gone crazy, and the game ends. However, this scene is the weirdest, because not only is there no journal for this event, but we also for once are unable to control the character. On top of this, the 2016 Redux version of the game removes this ending entirely and replaces it with a funeral scene. There's only really two ways to interpret this. Either A, the devs just added this in for shock value, or the school shooter scene is a hallucination or a false flag. Now, both of the possibilities of B have merit. The false flag could be done as a way to smear the Postal Dude and take attention away from the Air Force Base's experiment with their hate plague, which Postal Dude seems to think is the cause for everything else going on around him. However, I think there's more merit for the hallucination. Not only do we end up in an asylum at the end of the game, but in the game's audio settings there is a demon slider, which when turned to 0 removes Rick Hunter's voice lines and leaves us with nothing but cries of pain when the dude gets hit. So either there's an invisible demon running around saying shit while the Postal Dude kills cops, or the demon is in his head saying stuff to screw with him. Keep in mind, there is seemingly a jump to the school scene from the Air Force Base, and there's virtually no explanation for this. It's even possible, when you think about it, that the hallucination I mentioned is the fault of the demon torturing the Postal Dude. At the same time, this could explain the cops being so trigger-happy, and even allude to the fact that the demon is the hate plague mentioned earlier, and the hallucination of the school scene at the end is a symptom. It would even explain the shrill scream the dude emits during the end cutscene while the doctors are talking.
We may never know exactly what set him off, but Rest assured, we will have plenty of time to study it.
But hey, that's just a thing.
If you liked the video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, share the video with a friend, and follow me on all my socials. Leave a comment down below to tell me your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next video.